For 20 years, men's tennis was predictable, but in the most spectacular way imaginable. From the grass of Wimbledon to the hard courts of New York, three names dominated the sport with a consistency that bordered on the absurd. Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, Novak Djokovic. Together, the big three. They didn't just win, they built a dynasty so absolute it felt permanent. Between them, they won 66 Grand Slam titles, the most important tournaments in the sport. For context, the next closest player in all of tennis history has just 14. For an entire generation of fans, they were tennis. But the data is now undeniable. That era, it's over. The kingdom has fallen. This isn't just a story about the end of a great era. It's about the statistical birth of the next one. A transition that many feared would leave a vacuum of talent and fan interest. But the opposite has happened. And the evidence isn't just in who's winning, but in who's watching. So the question isn't if a new era has started. The question is, what does this new world of tennis actually look like? To understand the scale of this shift, first you have to understand the scale of the empire that came before it. An empire built on numbers that frankly defy logic. To really understand the scale of this shift, you have to start with the Grand Slams, the four tournaments that define a player's legacy. Winning just one can make a career. The 90s legend Pete Sampras retired with the then record 14. The big three shattered that standard. Federer finished with 20, Nadal with 22, and Djokovic with 24. But their dominance wasn't just collective, it was personal, and it was record-shattering. Rafael Nadal won the French Open, a single tournament, 14 times. That's more than double the next best player in the entire Open era, the period since 1968. And then there's the ultimate measure of consistency, the world #1 ranking. For a staggering 428 weeks, Novak Djokovic was officially the best player on the planet. That's more than 2 full years longer than the man in second place, Roger Federer. For 2 decades, they created a statistical fortress, locking out entire generations of talented players. But every dynasty eventually faces one unbeatable opponent: time. The end began, as you'd expect, with time. In 2022, Roger Federer retired. Soon after, Rafael Nadal's persistent injuries saw him fade from the top of the rankings. And then there was one. In July 2025, Novak Djokovic, the last Titan, fell to number 6 in the world. The fortress had been breached. The power vacuum was officially open. And into that power vacuum stepped a new generation. Not gradually, but all at once. At the top of the list, Italy's Jannik Sinner and Spain's Carlos Alcaraz. As of summer 2025, they are the #1 and 2 players in the world. The shift is no longer a prediction. It's a mathematical fact, reflected in the sport's ultimate scoreboard. But the final piece of evidence, the data point that really ends the argument, is who's winning the majors. Let's look at the winners of the Grand Slams in 2024 and 2025. The US Open, Jannik Sinner. The Australian Open, Jannik Sinner. The French Open, Carlos Alcaraz. Wimbledon, Jannik Sinner. Out of the last 6 majors, players not named Djokovic, Nadal, or Federer have won 5. Sinner and Alcaraz have taken them all. This isn't a crack in the old empire. This is a hostile takeover. But the collapse of the old guard didn't create chaos. Instead, the data shows it's reshaping the entire landscape of men's tennis in 3 fundamental ways. First, the power vacuum is being filled not by one king, but by a new, compelling duopoly.
Tennis thrives on great rivalries. Borg versus McEnroe, Sampras versus Agassi, Federer versus Nadal. And the world is now laser-focused on Sinner versus Alcaraz. They represent a clash of styles perfectly suited for the modern game. Their head-to-head record is already fiercely competitive, and with Alcaraz dominating on clay and Sinner conquering the other surfaces, they're setting the stage for a decade-long battle. Second, and perhaps most surprisingly, the sports business is accelerating. The fear was that fans would leave with the legends. The data shows the exact opposite. At the Australian Open, attendance surged by 45% between 2023 and 2025, breaking the 1 million person barrier for the first time. The US Open followed suit, drawing its own record crowds. It turns out, the drama of unpredictability is a more powerful commercial driver than the comfort of dominance. The uncertainty is the product. And third, the very geography of tennis is shifting. For 2 decades, the top of the sport was centered in Switzerland, Spain, and Serbia. Now, with Jannik Sinner at number 1, Italy has become a new tennis superpower. Sinner is the first Italian man in the Open era to win the US Open and Wimbledon, and only the second to win the Australian Open. This isn't just about new players, it's about new tennis nations rising to prominence, broadening the sport's global fan base. So what happens now? While the data confirms the old era is over, the final shape of the new one is still being written. The biggest question is whether the Sinner-Alcaraz duopoly can achieve the same sustained dominance. The Big Three held off multiple generations of challengers. It's still uncertain if this new guard can do the same. And you can never truly count out a titan. Djokovic may be ranked 6th, but one last late career run at a major could rewrite this entire narrative. But that uncertainty is precisely what makes this new era so compelling. For 20 years, we knew who would be standing there at the end. We knew the names, the styles, the legends. Now, we don't. The era of certainty is over, and it's been replaced by an era of possibility.